So I'm just getting to the gym, and what's real funny is I was trying to record me coming to the gym because I was listening to music and all of that, and it was just a little personality, little, you know, a little clip, but the camera kept falling, so it didn't go as planned. But anyways, I just got to the gym, but I never go straight into the gym. I don't know what it is, I just never do. I always have to like do something first before I go into the gym. So I thought, why not make a video like I usually did. But I was reading in Exodus this morning about, and I didn't read the whole book or anything. I was reading in the beginning of it about Moses and his encounter with God at the burning bush and so forth. And I typed something in my notes, but what I really wanted to talk about today was having confidence in who God said you are and what he called you to do. And what Exodus made me realize, or what Moses' encounter with God made me realize, is that you have to first have, in order to have confidence in who you are and what God has called you to do, you first have to have confidence in God himself. Because when God came to Moses at the burning bush, Moses he wasn't confident in who he was. He didn't really know who he was. And in chapter 3, in chapter 3, when Moses is at the burning bush talking to God, he asked God in verse 11, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" And God's answer, every time Moses gets scared, or every time Moses wants to get out of it, God reminds him of not who Moses is, but God reminds him of who he is, that he is the creator, that God reminds him that I created you. God reminds him that I'm the one who said this. God reminds him of everything that he is capable of doing. So in order to be confident in who you are and be confident in what God has told you to do, you always have to remember who God is. It's very important to know the character of God before you can even know yourself, because he made you. So you can never really know yourself fully until you know God. And I wrote some stuff in my notes. Let me see what I wrote. I don't even remember. Yeah, I wrote, in order to have confidence in who you are or what God has called you to do, you have to have confidence in the character of God. You have to have confidence in knowing who God is, and that's why God allows us to remember things he has done, so that when we come across new things, we can say, I know God. I know he's going to take care of this. I know God. I know he's here for me. I know God. I know he can do this. I know God. I know I can do this. Most of us, when we're struggling with something, or we feel like we're not capable of doing something, we want people to tell us how good we are. Tell us, oh, you're good at that, like you'll be fine, you're good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this, you're good at this. And if you notice, God didn't do that. He didn't tell Moses everything that he was good at. Moses was like, I have a stuttering problem, basically, like I can't even speak. And God reminds him of who he is. He says, I will help you, I will speak for you. So that just goes back to having confidence in God and who he is and what he says. Having confidence in his word. That's why the Bible is so important. That's why you cannot just read the Bible one time, or that's why you can't just not read the Bible at all, because God's word is living. So having confidence in what he says and what he is still saying, because I think a lot of people don't realize that God can speak to them. And if you've never heard that before, I'm telling you now, God can speak to you, and he will speak to you if you just take the time to talk to him, take the time to find him, recognize him in anywhere. But that's not even what got me. Okay, so like that's the main part of what I want to talk about, is having confidence in the character of God. That's the main part. But what really got me was, after all this, God leads them into the wilderness. And I can say it made me think a lot about what season God took me through as he was giving me my identity, and as he was showing me who I was, and as he was showing me what he could do through me. He took me through a season of being alone, and I'm kind of in that season right now again. But I think a lot of times we're like, okay, I know who I am, and then you don't want to spend no more time with God. Yeah, God leads him into the wilderness. And I think a lot of times when we think of wilderness, we think terrible. We think going through things all the time. We think not having, we think lack. We think all these things, but really God is taking you to a place where it's just you and him. God is taking you to a place where you learn to trust him, where you learn to talk to him, when you learn to ask him everything, and when you learn yourself. So that's very important also when you're figuring out who you are. It's okay to be alone. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. You're never lonely because God is with you. So being alone is definitely okay. It's fine. It's okay. And like, that's really the best time to learn who you are. And this just, I wasn't even planning on speaking on this, but that's why singleness is a blessing. Singleness is a blessing. Like, especially nowadays, or in our generation now, everybody wants to be in a relationship. Everybody wants to be booed up. Everybody wants to be, and not even just relationships. Everybody want to be around friends all the time, and everybody wants to be so, never want to be alone. But it's okay to be alone. 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 Be alone with God. Like, if you're gonna be alone with God. Be open to hear what he is saying. Be open to do what he's telling you to do. But yeah, that part really stuck out to me today when I was reading it, because I've read this book before, but like, that part really stuck out to me because after he told Moses what he wanted him to do, and after he gave him instruction to do those things, he led him straight into the wilderness. And I'm like, God, like, dang. Because you're not expecting that. When God tells you to do something, you're like, okay, I got it. And you get to a point where you're finally feeling comfortable, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna lead you into the wilderness now. Like, okay, now you're gonna go into this season where you have to be by yourself. Now you're going to go into this season where it's just me and you. And it becomes something that we don't really want to do because it's not comfortable. But it's okay to not be comfortable. It is, because God is going to continue to reveal things to you as long as you're staying in his presence, as long as you're keeping him first, as long as you're talking to him, as long as you're spending time with him. And yeah, the wilderness, I just found that like really speaking to me today. Because the wilderness, I think just like the name wilderness even sounds like not somewhere you want to go. Like, it doesn't sound pretty. It doesn't sound, and there's things, there's a lot that you go through when you're with God, because he's teaching you, he's molding you, he's pruning you, he's doing everything he needs to do in order for you to get to the place that you need to be. And it doesn't always feel good, and that's just the truth. But no pain, no gain. If you ask me, I would say the wilderness is really where you see God. Like, you see God do things that you never thought he could do. Like, you really learn the character of God when you're just with him by yourself. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. And then when you learn the character of God, you're learning more about you, because it's like when you learn the character of God, you like, I can do anything because God says so. So it's like, knowing the character of God is such a blessing, and it's so important to know, because when you don't, you begin to limit yourself. And as humans, we do have limitations, like, to what we can do by ourselves. But as long as you have God, you can do anything. I don't care who doesn't believe it. Like, if God said you can do that thing, you can do that thing, and you're gonna do it. Literally, in verse 11, Moses asked God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? And God said, I will certainly be with you. He didn't say, Moses, you are this, and this, and you're good at this and good at this. He just said, I will be with you. What? That just shows you what the character of God can do on its own. Like, knowing who he is, knowing what he's capable of, knowing him in every way is the best way to find who you are. And like, the part about going into the wilderness is what made me realize, or what helped me understand why God had me in a season of being still, why God had me in a season of being alone after I had been with friends for so long and going out and stuff. Why God had me just sit down and chill out for a while. And I understand it now, because I needed to see what he was capable of doing in a season where I wasn't around anybody, or in a season where he had just revealed to me some things, and I needed to see what he could do with those things. God didn't tell Moses, oh Moses, you're good at this. Oh Moses, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you are. He told him to tell the Israelites, I am sent him. He told him to tell them, I am that I am. And he said that because who we are made in the image of God. And what that means is our identity will always stem from who God is. He is our maker. He is our creator. So why not go to the person who made you to find out who you are? Why not go to the one who is in control to find out what to do? All I really want to say to like anybody who needs it is, the first step to having confidence in who you are is having confidence in the character of God. And if you don't know the character of God, read your word, and pray. Ask him to show you who he is. Ask him, like, this is especially for people who have never really tried to pray, who have never really felt like God could talk to them, or God could do anything, or God was real. Pray, and literally just ask God. Just put your faith in him and just ask him, like, show me who you are, because I don't know who you are. It's okay to say, God, I don't really know all that you are. I don't really know all that you're capable of doing. So can you show me? And he'll show you. He'll reveal himself in different ways if you just ask him to. And when he does respond to it, you may be led into the wilderness. You may be led into a season where you have to be alone, and that's okay. Because if you're alone, God is doing a lot inside of you. And he's making you a better person. He's instilling a lot of things in you. He's showing you what he already placed in you. All that is beautiful. So go get your confidence. Get your confidence in God. Read your word. Dwell on who he is. Don't even worry so much about figuring anything out, like what you're good at, or things like that. Dwell on who God is. Because most of the time when he tells you, like, okay, this is what I want you to do, you're like, me? I can't do that. And that's why you need God. That's why you need God. Because when God told me to speak, I was like, what? I was like Moses, like, God, like, I be stuttering, like, I'm not eloquent in speech like that. But that's why you need him. That's why he called you to do it, because he know that he could work through you, and that's what's important. That is what's important. Because the character of God should be seen in you. But yeah, I'll see you on my next video. Peace.